What's up everyone, Wieger Buurma from Appletree Surfboards, back in the Appletree headquarters, and today we have a really special one for you, the highly anticipated board from Appletree Surfboard, designed with and for foil drive. Let me present to you the brand new Zapple. You might have seen this board float around the interwebs for a while now, because we've been doing a lot of testing on this board. And as you know, with Appletree, we try to be on the forefront of design, but we also don't want to rush to market with a new product, especially something that's so radically different like this one. So it took us a while to really get the production ready, to get everything sorted, which I'll explain a little bit more in this video. But it's finally here, it's available, you can get your hands on one, and they're amazing. This board has blown many minds and it will blow many more. We've been overwhelmed by the performance ourselves. It's so much better than we expected. So yeah, let's dive into what makes this board special and why you really want one of these in your quiver, especially when you have the foil drive system. So yeah, we started designing this board in the middle of 24. When we were using a lot of foil drive stuff. You might have seen the video that we made, we'll link to it here, with the foil drive, and where we use the foil drive on all the boards that we have. We tried it on many different shapes and we found out some quite interesting things. So from there we've been working directly with foil drive, and then at some point we said, why not make a board that has a recess that fits the foil drive completely into the board. Initially the idea was to put the recess in there for drag reduction, because you really feel the foil drive box. It's not terrible, but you do always feel the foil drive box. But then later we found out many more advantages. So we started designing a few boards that we liked the foil drive system with, and we started adding this recess or trench, what we called it back then, to these boards, and started testing and seeing what worked with the boards. We also had a lot of conversations with the guys at Foil Drive themselves. They tried the boards, they said what they liked. We had some issues to solve. The construction wise was of course a couple of tricky ones, and then finally we came to this board. As you can see, it has the Foil Drive logos on there, so it's a Foil Drive approved product, as it's made for the Foil Drive. Other foil assist systems at the moment don't fit this board. It's specifically for Foil Drive use. So yeah, let's dive into the shape. So what we noticed in the research that we did, and also the video we made, is that you can go two ways when designing a board for foil drive. One is to go relatively wide and flat, so you get that planing surface, and the other is to go narrower and longer. And as the trend in foiling is going narrower and longer across the board, we also felt that this was the way to go for the Zapple. We tried again the boards back to back with the same foil drive setup on flat water, super stable conditions, and we saw that this kind of longer elongated shape is just faster and quicker to get onto foil than a flatter one. Then also a slightly thicker board will really help when you touch down, and a flatter, thinner board tends to catch the rail a little bit more. It might be a little bit more stable if you have a wider board, especially on lower speeds, but we designed this product for the advanced user, the advanced foil drive user, and I think that you have more, for those kind of riders, there's more advantage into having this narrower and longer shape. It will come out in 3 sizes. The smallest one is the 5.0 at 38 liters. This sounds like a relatively high volume, but look at it. This is actually not the smallest one, but it has the volume really packed into a thicker kind of shape. So you don't really notice that volume until you actually need it. But when you're up on foil, it feels like a really small board. Also, the foil track is relatively far forward, so you only see a little bit of board in front of you, and when you're riding it feels like a much smaller board than the 38 liters that it has. This is a really big advantage. Don't think that you're going to need a lot less than this. It's not a downside, and it only has plus upside, so that's why we started with 38 liters on the smallest size. Should be okay for anyone up to like 95 kilos, 95 kilos, and an average advanced rider. Then going up one size, we have a 5.4 at 46 liters. This is a more all-round size for everyone's, a really good beginner size for smaller riders. Bigger riders than like me, I really enjoy the 46 liters because with the 38 liters, I struggle sometimes to get going in complete flats, and I like to be able to start. I usually use a wave to get going on foil drive, also to save battery. But it's sometimes nice to be able to start if you have to go to an outside reef or you have to foil far. It's just nicer to have that little bit of extra board. It's still only a 5.4, so remember, it feels like a really small board. Don't be afraid of this extra liters. And then finally we have the 5.8 at 54 liters. This is more beginner friendly, way more stable, still only a 5.8, so it's not as big as your wingboard. It's a really nice all-round shape. It's also not that wide, it's still quite a narrow package. So yeah, that's a really good beginner one. If you're a heavier rider or if you're not that experienced, or you want to just be able to do longer downwinders, really save battery. Remember the battery performance, the longer you can ride, the longer session you have, the more fun you have. So, well, don't be afraid of the sizes. They're slightly bigger for a reason. So moving on to the shape itself. So this shape, as you can see, it's a really elongated shape. What we've done, apart from the recess, is we've really added this hard rail line in the back of the board, but it actually starts already here and it goes fairly hard all the way. This really helps to release the water, especially on touchdowns. You get this like really nice rebound. Normally when you touch down on a foil drive, you have that jerky feeling that the foil drive box gives you. Of course, this is not here, so you can really ride it super low on the board. This is a really big advantage as well if you have to motor out to far away spots, because now this is a foil drive that has the motor on the bottom, but normally when you use the short cable, it's very hard to keep that board or that foil deep enough so the motor is in the water but the box doesn't hit the water. And the shorter cable you use, the harder this becomes. Now with the Zapple, because there is no drag of the foil drive box, this becomes much easier and you can actually just skimp along the surface of the water and keep that motor engaged, so you need less power. Again, more efficient, easier for longer motoring out on the foil drive. Again, the board itself, nice and elongated. We have really big traction pads on the front, so they're really far in front also because when you're laying down still, you need that grip of your elbows to hold on to the board. In general, just a really nice elongated shape. Then in the back, we try to mirror this sort of shape of the foil drive box into the recess, so you can see this is really smooth, as little gaps as possible, and really smooth transition into the board. And it really, as you can see here, it really fits nicely inside here, minimizing the drag that you have. Speaking of drag, initially when we started designing the Zapple, we thought the biggest advantage was going to be the reduction in drag. That was the initial goal. And of course, it really helps. The less drag you have, again, longer battery life, longer sessions, easier touchdowns, it makes sense, yeah? But then we found out something else. After riding it for a couple of months, we found that there's weight in the battery. You cannot get around. You have this extra weight. The weight is really centered. Foil drive is designed with the weight designed like in the sweet spot. But we can make that sweet spot even sweeter by moving the weight up closer to your feet. This is a really, really important one. If you can imagine, like, if you're standing on your foil, and this is your foil and this is you, there's this natural pivot point. It's why you always have the taco fall when you fall onto your foil. This, when you do a turn, this wants to sort of swing out in your turn. And foil drive users know this. When you do a hard turn, it tends to want to, because that weight is there, it wants to pull it out. With the weight closer to your feet, it's easier to sort of crawl that weight back when you engage your turn. So normally with a foil drive, you really want to sort of engage the turn slowly. First, get your weight across and then move the foil, because if you do foil and then get your weight across, it wants to swing out. The Zapple has this extreme advantage where it's just so much easier to do tight turns. I mean, I'm not gonna say that you don't feel the battery weight anymore, but I'm confident enough to say that it really reduces the amount of swing feel in your battery, and it really, really helps that sense. For us, this advantage was bigger than the reduction in drag. It's such a nice feeling to have that weight closer to you. Just engage those turns, throw harder turns, know that you're going to recover. Yeah, super nice balance in the swing weight, balance in the board. Only for this reason you really want to have a Zapple. If you have a foil drive, you know, it's gonna completely change the way you use your foil drive. Also wants you to like use smaller foils, longer mast, like higher speeds, all of that stuff. Just gives you more confidence. Want to go into a couple of other details about the boards. First of all, we have the tracks. So we designed the trench or the recess that the foil drive sits in such a way that when you're riding a max power like this one, like the one that most people will use, if you have the foil drive box all the way to the front of the recess, the T-nuts are sort of in the middle of the box. So you of course can't move forward, but you can if you use the sport battery. So the smaller nose cone, know that there's enough range there. If you have a foil that's very lifty, or you use one of these with a foil drive motor on the bottom and it really pushes up and you need more weight on the front foot, know that there is room to move the foil box back and forth. Of course, depending on if you use the max power or the sport battery, there is room to move. That's the important one. Behind the foil drive, in this case, there is quite a lot of open area. Well, we could have closed this, but because you want to have that room to move, we didn't want to set the foil drive in one specific location because we want to be open to any foil manufacturer out there. We kept this open. Would we have closed this, you create this extra room for the water to go in and it doesn't become like it really wants to suck up water and it doesn't have a nice flow anymore. So we decided to keep this open. The water can flow around in and out. And then also it makes it very easy to slide the foil box in and out. So another thing that we got a lot of questions about is the width and can you change the battery? Well, simply said, you have to take the foil box out to remove the battery. We know this is a downside and we know it would be an option to make this wider so you can undo the latches. But we tried and one, it just looks completely off to have this really wide trench where the foil drive only needs a narrow trench. And then we didn't feel that it just wasn't feeling right. Then we thought, how much work is it actually to remove these 4 bolts and get it in and out? And it's basically nothing. I would really highly recommend to get if you don't have an integrated mast and you have your normal mast, drill these extra holes and get these extra bolts. They're not in here, but drill these extra holes. Get those bolts connected to your foil drive box. That makes it much easier to get it in and out. Then make sure that you have the locking T-nuts that foil drive supplies in the right space, so it's very easy to get in and out. If you want, get a couple of those big wing nut screws. And then also we are working with foil drive on an even quicker solution that should come out very soon. By the time you have this video, it might be already out, but we're coming out with a special bolt system that's even quicker. So in total, we reckon it's about a minute longer to switch battery boxes. For us, that's that's offset by the way nicer shape and the way nicer water flow around the board. Another question that we get a lot, of course, is antenna reception for your remote. Our boards are fully made out of carbon fiber, or at least they have been always, and that is not good for battery reception. So again, we work together with Foil Drive. We sat down with them, they explained to us how the reception works, where the receiver in the Foil Drive box is, and how we can get that signal out. So then we started testing a lot of stuff with like getting that signal first into the board. So we made a solution for this. We do advise to use the foam inserts, very important, use the foam inserts in the tracks to get that signal because they block water. And if there's stagnant water in the foil tracks, water blocks the signal even more than carbon fiber. So if there's stagnant water in the tracks, that blocks the signal. So get those foamy bits in there and leave them in there. That's one important one. Now the signal is in the board. We need to get it out at your hand, which is close to the board when you're laying down. So to do this, what we've done, we've created a special sort of window in the deck of the board. It also looks slightly different from our other boards. There's a window there to pass the signal through. So there is carbon fiber in the entirety of the board, just not in the top and the final bit of the nose. That makes the signal escape the board and go into your remote. This completely eliminates the reception problems that people experienced in the past. So it's like, again, this board is designed for foil drive. We worked with foil drive to solve this issue and make it a well reception and perfectly working board. So shouldn't be any issues there. Yeah, so a little bit on the rest of the construction of the board. So all of the rest of the board is fully made out of carbon fiber because that is the stiffest and the most direct material and our material of choice for any foil board. As you can see, we do all our foil boards in carbon. The board is relatively light, but we did beef it up quite a bit for the extreme use that foil drive brings. We also felt with the added battery weight, we had a little bit more wiggle room, so the boards are generally really, really strong. They are, if you're not familiar with our construction, have a look on our other videos that we explain completely how it works. But basically what we do is we use a waterproof core. So if you do end up cracking your board because you dropped it on the parking or something, you can still ride. The board is waterproof, the core is waterproof, you're guaranteed no water absorption. There's also no air vent because it's not needed. The board is also airtight. So even if you live in a hot location, the thing gets really warm, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it gets too warm to touch, it still doesn't matter. The board is guaranteed waterproof. And we use a vacuum infusion system where we wrap the board in carbon fiber and then under pressure, we inject the resin into the fiber. This is a long story. Again, we have made many videos on how this exactly works, so look that up. The advantage for you is that we can actually do this foil drive recess super well. Like all the carbon is there. You can see if you look at the trench, like the carbon really folds nicely into all the corners. It's really smoothed out, which is a really hard thing to do because carbon doesn't want to be pushed in tight corners. And luckily at Appletree we already had this tech, so for us it was relatively easy to make this board. But still, it's important if you want a board like this that you're not gonna have issues with the trench or with the cracking on the rails. We guarantee that's not gonna use. If anything, the whole recess makes the board actually stronger because you get an extra box construction of carbon fiber inside the bottom of the board where the most stress is. Yeah, I think that's about it for this video on the shape of the board. The Zapples are available now through our dealer network all around the world. So get in touch with your closest dealer or have a look at appletreesurfboards.com. We will have availability there as well. The first batch is coming out beginning of 25 with more boards coming out throughout the season. Get in touch with your local dealer or give us a call. We have different phone numbers in the US and Europe nowadays, so check it out on the website, send us a message, and we can get one of these in your hands as quick as possible. Give it a try. It's really, really going to be worth it. We'll be touring around the whole world with the whole year with all these boards as well. So you'll see many of them floating around to your local lineup. Let me know if you have any questions. You can ask them down below, send us a message again, Instagram, whatever. We try to answer all of them. Get in touch with you as soon as possible and hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.